welcome to the latest episode of All Things Fisker. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, TuneIn, Pandora, Stitcher, or iHeartRadio, we're thrilled to have you tonight with us. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a thumbs up, whether you're on YouTube or on any one of the podcast streaming services I just mentioned. Also, don't forget to download the Fiskerati app on the Apple App Store or on Google Play. Now, in episode 22, we're going to be diving into the latest updates on all things Fisker tonight. We will share with you the latest updates regarding the U.S. homologation. We're going to talk about the EV tax credit. We're going to talk about all sorts of stuff tonight. Fisker shares hitting an all-time low. Fisker Center Plus locations opening up next week in Europe. Geez, there's definitely lots of stuff. As you can probably tell, I'm joined by a couple familiar faces. Welcome, Jim from OSR Garage and Marty from Fisker's Whispers. How are you two gentlemen doing tonight?
I'm poor. I'm much more poor than I was last week, but doing okay.
That's funny. Matt also might join us from Ocean View, so if he pops in, we'll go ahead and add him to the live stream. So yeah, that's the lineup for tonight. I'm actually kind of excited to talk about a few different things. We're also going to talk about some of the excitement surrounding the Fisker Ocean One that we learned about earlier this morning. And then we're going to also talk about, I forgot to write this one down, but we're going to talk about production goals of Fisker for Q1 2023. So those are kind of interesting. Marty and I were chatting about those last week, and we're going to dive in since the quarter ended, I believe, on Friday. However, before we get started, let's find out where everyone is, as we always do. It's kind of fun to see if there's anybody that's joining us from Europe, maybe in Canada, East Coast, West Coast of the United States, kind of where everyone's from. So let us know where you're at. See some familiar faces in the chat. We do have a chat running on YouTube. So if you are watching us off of YouTube, you can head over to the YouTube channel and chat with everybody. It's a live stream of everything. Hello, Tasha from Minnesota. Thanks for being a club member, as well as Tommaso from Los Angeles. Appreciate you guys for joining week in and week out. Same with you, Rosanna. Jose, welcome as well. I think you just became a club member, so thank you very much. They're on YouTube. So that's pretty cool, helping support the channel. Jingesh, welcome. Overland Park, I mentioned I've been there before at Sprint headquarters. I don't know if that's still there, but I've been there a couple times when it was there. We have Fisker Whispers from Florida. There he is in the chat. Thanks for joining us. We have Jim, obviously, from Illinois. And we've got Philly, Virginia, Oakland. Geez, there's people from all over. Melbourne, Florida. Nobody yet from Europe. So it's quite late there. I think at a minimum, 8 hours ahead. So pretty late. Most people are probably sleeping. But let's go ahead and read the poll question for the night. We ended up putting a poll in the chat for the people that are in there. Currently 64 votes. We asked this question. What is the most critical, or I should say, what is the most crucial factor for you as a Fisker Ocean customer? So we give 4 poll choices. The poll choices are exceptional customer service, superior product quality, responsive to customer feedback, and lastly, transparent and honest communication. Those are the 4 choices. If there is an option to do a 5th choice, I would have done it, but there's only 4 choices in the poll, as always, every week on YouTube. So there would have been an all of the above. I think all of the above is probably definitely the one I would have chose if it was there, but I can't put 5 options in the poll. So it'll be interesting to see what the results are. We'll share the results later on in the show, and then we'll talk a little bit about that. Now, let's go ahead and get started on the news and give you kind of the latest and greatest of what we know. Most people probably already know this stuff, but if you don't, you're getting caught up, and then we can do our discussion that we do after it. That's the new All Things Fisker format for those that are just joining. And for people who have returned week after week, thank you very much. It's actually quite cool to see people join us each week. So, okay, let's get started. So today was probably, if you're a Fisker shareholder, which I am, and I believe Marty is, and Jim is, and Matt, who's joins us as well at times. He's also a shareholder. Many of the people in our chat are shareholders. And today, unfortunately, Fisker shares closed at an all-time low of $5.36 per share, declining 7.59% on higher than average trading volume of 10.1 million shares. Throughout the day, the stock traded between $5.75 a share to $5.33 per share, with a 52-week high of $13.75 a share and a 52-week low of $5.33 a share, which unfortunately was reached today. Year to date, shares have dropped 26.27% according to Yahoo Finance. Short interest in Fisker, according to Fintel, currently stands at 38.84%. Additionally, Fisker has been placed at number 11 on MarketWatch's most shorted stock list. Okay, so that's probably the worst news that I had to read off tonight. Next up, following our previous episode, the U.S. Treasury Department has released new regulations for the EV tax credit, with an emphasis, I should say, on EV batteries. While manufacturers are still required to perform final assembly of EVs in North America, the updated guidelines now include an and/or criteria for sourcing critical minerals and battery components. To qualify for the full $7,500 EV tax credit, EVs must meet sourcing requirements for both critical minerals and battery components. If an EV meets only one requirement, it is eligible for a $3,750 credit. Later in the show, we're going to go ahead and take a look further at these new regulations, I would say, in probably greater detail. We'll go into the battery components and critical minerals and what all what all that means for the Fisker Ocean, the Fisker Pear, maybe even other EVs. Next up, Fisker Ocean production. So we talked a little bit about this last week. As of last week, after the show, Q1 2023 came to a close. I believe that was Friday of last week. That was March 31st. Fisker had planned to manufacture more than 300 electric SUVs in collaboration with Magnastera during this period. The company expected to receive the necessary parts for the first 300 cars in March. It's still unclear, however, whether Fisker obtained the required parts or has been able to produce the planned vehicles as the company awaits European homologation by April 28th. We have yet to receive an update on U.S. homologation as well. Fisker, however, has confirmed that the Fisker Ocean 1 deliveries will take place after European homologation. So that's good news. Now, for some, I would say even more exciting news, this is something that I actually really enjoyed writing about. Fisker is finalizing the development of 2 new Center Plus locations in Europe, which will open the doors next week on Tuesday in Copenhagen and Vienna. These locations represent the first of many planned Fisker Lounge Experience Centers across Europe and the United States. Each Fisker Center Plus will offer services and test drives for electric vehicles, although it's unclear as of right now if test drives will be immediately available at the grand opening. We have been, we have seen photos already of vehicles sitting on site at both the Vienna location and the Copenhagen location. I'm not sure, and maybe people in the chat or maybe some of our viewers listening in know, I believe the homologation actually has to be completed before test drives can actually be done on public roads. But we still need some clarity on that. So that's still super exciting that the Center Pluses are going to be opening up next week. If you happen to attend one of the grand openings, please share your photos and videos with us. We'll feature them here on this channel on All Things Fisker next week. We'll feature them on the Fiskerati website, and we'll talk about them because it'll be something fun and new to talk about. And also today, something new and exciting surfaced on Fiskerati forums in the morning. Matty Hugh, member of the Fiskerati forums, shared some photos that he got, that he took actually, of 2 branded Ocean 1 keychains that were sent to him by Fisker. Now, we heard other reports of people on Fiskerati forums also really receiving these 2 branded Ocean 1 keychains. However, the box that they came in, actually really nice packaging, by the way, and he commented on the packaging. He said that they did not accompany it with a note or an explanation. He just figured it was a gift for being a Fisker Ocean 1 customer. said it was a pleasant surprise. And I think it's a pleasant surprise for anybody who receives a gift. So I'm going to actually keep tabs on my mailbox more frequently than once a week. And maybe I'll be lucky enough to receive a keychain as well, or keychains. There's actually 2 of them. So that's pretty exciting. Maybe people in the chat, let us know if you received a Fisker Ocean One keychain in your mailbox today. It appears that they may have just been sent currently to people in Canada, but there may be people in the US that received them too. We don't know exactly, but the people that posted about them on Fiskerati forums, I believe, were both from Canada. So that's pretty interesting. There you have it. That's your news for the week. It's been a very light news week as far as press releases and things like that. I do have some further information that I'm going to share about in a little bit when we get to talking about production goals and things like that. We did end up getting some information from, believe it or not, Instagram around Ocean deliveries. So there might be some new timing. It actually came from the official source, that being Instagram. So we'll talk about that here in just a moment. I don't know if anyone saw that. I posted a screenshot to the Fiskerati forums earlier today. Okay, we're going to stop there. We're going to take a pause before we get into the discussion with Marty and Jim. I'm going to throw them on the screen, and I'm going to remove the All Things Fisker Live icon that's right next to Jim's head. But we'll replace it with this this little one. But before we chat about that, I want to ask everybody one more time, if you haven't hit the like button, go ahead and hit the like button, because that helps share this video across YouTube for the people who also might be interested in Fisker. So it's just one video, and then it's broadcasted to more people based on comments that you leave on the video, as well as your likes and dislikes. And by the way, if you haven't downloaded the Fiskerati app for getting the latest news, we actually uploaded a new build. We released a new build on iOS and Android this week. So we did a little bit of work on that. More performance improvements, bug fixing, things like that. But there is a new Fiskerati app on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Check that out if you haven't already done so. Okay, that was a lot. I did that in I don't know how many minutes. 12 minutes? Geez, sorry, gentlemen.
Nailed it.
All right, where do you want to start tonight on our discussion? Do you want to talk about, let's start off with the good news. Fisker Center Pluses in Europe next week. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
For me, I think it's if they're releasing those there first, I would assume that that's probably where the first deliveries are going to be going. Not coming to the U.S. first. So that'd be my guess.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. It stands to reason now with a April 28th date and and those centers opening first, that and the WLTP announcement at the end of March. Looks like Europe's going to be getting their cars hopefully here soon.
Yeah, and I think Matt joined us. Welcome, Matt. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, everybody.
What's up, Matt?
Where'd you go for dinner tonight?
Oh, we were at a friend's house for Passover.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. That sounds fun. Like you mentioned, Marty and Jim, the Europe being most likely the first place that gets the deliveries. I agree with you, and I think we're safe to say that because we haven't gotten an update yet on U.S. Government approval, if you will, or North American homologation. So with the current date, like you mentioned, Marty, April 28th, that's kind of the date, and it was by April 28th is what it actually said in the press release. So it could potentially be sooner.
Hey,
we're not sure, but that's super exciting. Someone's gonna. Yeah, right.
We could use it. We could use it.
It certainly could. It certainly could. We don't know. What are your thoughts, Matt, on the Fisker Center Pluses that are going to be opening next week in Vienna and Copenhagen, April 11th? I believe it's Tuesday. Tuesday's always a good day to release news. So maybe we'll get some additional news with the Center Plus, locations being open.
Yeah, it's exciting. Hopefully somebody in Europe or a couple people can send you some pictures or video.
That'd be great. Yeah, that would be really fun to see. It's always fun to post stuff that other people share. It makes the for people that don't know who are just joining us, this is a hobby for me. And as I mentioned to Marty and Jim before the show got started, we ended up going to Legoland today. We were only there for 2 hours because I had to come home and write that script that I just read. So anytime somebody provides photos or videos or things like that, it actually makes my hobby a little bit easier. I was going to say job. This is definitely not a job, but my hobby a little bit easier to write it. Even though it's fun to write this stuff, it just makes it a little easier day in and day out. So anyhow, if you go to those, check them out. I think it's really exciting. And the reason I think it's exciting is it'll be the first time a customer that's not an employee of Fisker, an actual customer like me and you guys, will actually be able to set foot into a physical store location. I think that's actually really neat. It's like, you can talk about when I worked at Amazon as an example, I stepped into, for my very first time, an Amazon bookstore, and it actually was the coolest thing. Since then, they've shut down all the Amazon bookstores that I'm pretty aware of, at least in my local vicinity. But as somebody who worked there as a customer who constantly bought stuff on a Kindle, which I have sitting over there on the desk, it was fun walking into the physical store with the Fisker Ocean. Tying this back, I purchased it online as virtually everyone else has, and nobody actually got to go into a physical store to do that, to touch it, to feel it. Yeah, some of us have been able to go to a pop-up location, a pop-up event in Europe and the United States, but none of us have actually been able to go into a physical store and get to experience everything. And from the first pictures that I've seen were Copenhagen, and then I found this weekend when I wrote the article, I thought, wow, it showed up on Google Maps. I thought that was actually cool. If you go to Google Maps and you type in Fisker Center Copenhagen, Fisker Center Vienna, you end up getting an image presumably uploaded by Fisker, since they don't have kind of like the 360, what is it called?
Street view.
I don't know, Street View. They don't have the Street View, but they have like somebody uploaded an image. I'm guessing it was Fisker. They have the physical addresses listed. So it's very real. It's probably one of the biggest updates customers are going to be getting here, aside from the homologation, which we got, I think it was last week. It was last week, right? We got that one. Everything goes, there's just so much stuff going on. So we got that. And then the next thing I'm looking forward to, aside from the keychains, will be the people's reaction going into the store. They look very industrial. There's a lot of metal paneling. It reminded me, and for a good reason, it reminded me of a similar decor to like Chipotle. I don't know if that's a good way to describe it, but like my Chipotle uses a lot of that silver metal siding on walls and different, accent features. And the exterior, from what I've seen in the photos, both in Copenhagen and in Vienna, you saw that metal siding, wavy metal stamped siding. I thought it looks pretty cool. It looks industrial. The flooring looks like it could be possibly different in each of the locations. Tough to tell at this particular stage. But in the early photos, I saw that it was different, but things can change in a few weeks. It's pretty quick. You can get flooring installed within a couple days if it's similar to installing it in a house. So I would imagine it's probably pretty quick. So yeah, it's pretty neat to see all this take shape as somebody who's been following Fisker Inc. since pre IPO days, if you will, with their Spartan Energy SPAC. So it's pretty exciting. One thing that I didn't mention, and this was a month and a half ago, we forgot to celebrate, and I don't know why we didn't do this, but we never celebrated the 1 year anniversary of Fiskerati, and I didn't write an article on it. I don't know what I was doing at the time, but I've been tracking this publicly now for over a year. So as somebody who's taken time off work, I thought, hey, I love the company. I love following the company. I'm going to track the company. I'm also a shareholder in the company, and nothing better to follow the company than to write an article a day about it. So thanks for everybody who comes to the site and reads it, goes to the forum, posts stuff. Hopefully we'll get some new things from Fisker soon so that we can talk about new stuff. That would be really good across not only just the Fiskerati forums and the Fiskerati comments, but across all sites. I think it'd be Be great. So, okay, anything else you guys have about the Center Pluses? Anything else we should talk about the Center Pluses? Maybe one other thing. Where I think we already know the answer, but if Fisker could open up some Center Pluses, like where should the next Center Plus be opened up? Aside from the lounges that we know are going to be opened up in Los Angeles at the Grove and Munich, where should the next Center Plus be opened up, do you think, aside from Vienna and Copenhagen next week? Is there anything you can think of, any market that you think would be a good place, maybe?
Well,
I'm going to throw one out there. London. I haven't heard. I've heard of a whole bunch of different places, but London is one that I think would actually be really, really good. If anyone from Fisker watches this, London is a great place because we've seen so much demand and so many people interested in seeing a pop-up event for the Fisker Ocean. Nothing better than actually having a Center Plus right smack dab in the city, or probably on the outskirts, not in the city, but on the outskirts. It would be really cool to see that. I think people there would be super excited. Oslo's another one. Stockholm, those are maybe two more. There's probably a third. Paris, I think, is definitely another good one. But London is the one that I would love to see next. That one would be kind of like a surprise. At least for me, it would be a surprise. But not for the people who are building out the Center Pluses and lounges. So that's what we got with Center Pluses and lounges. Pretty exciting. Next week,
I've got a question about that.
Yeah, let's hear it. I probably don't have an answer, but let's talk about it.
Yeah, we probably don't have an answer, but now we were talking about they probably won't do test drives until later date, most likely. But when they do the test drives, are they only going to give test drives to Fisker reservation holders?
That's a good question. Anyone want to answer that aside from me? I'll give my thoughts in a second.
I hope they would. To ask everybody who is interested in seeing the car, maybe taking it around a block, or taking around a parking lot to first plunk down $250. Might be a big ask for most folks who are not familiar with the car or the brand. So I hope that's not a requirement.
Yeah.
I'd like to add maybe priority for the the Ocean One reservation and the owners, and then if they have openings, everybody else. I mean, that seems like it would be fair.
Yeah, we've seen at pop-up locations, we've seen Fisker reservation holders get a canvas tote bag if you show that, hey, I'm a reservation holder. So it's something different than just showing up and sitting in the car. So there could be maybe some special treatment. I personally, I think maybe it depends on. I think it all depends on how much demand there is for people to want to test drive them. And I can guarantee you, there's a lot of demand for people that want to test drive the Fisker Ocean. If there's a Fisker Ocean that came to either three of your towns, you're all in three different places, you're not going to be the only one. I'll bet money on it that you guys aren't going to be the only ones there for a test drive if test drives are an option. There's a lot of people that have expressed interest in the chat too. There's lots of people who would love to test drive the Fisker Ocean. So I would think if there's too much demand to test drive, maybe they'll end up doing, there's sites out there that let you book reservation to do, whether it be going to a restaurant, going to a hair salon, going to, you name it, the movies, whatever it is, you can choose a time and, hey, I'm going to show up at this time to test drive a car. That seems to me like leveraging technology. You have an app, which obviously Fisker does. Maybe there's a way to reserve a time slot to test drive a car. If not, if they haven't thought of that, maybe that's a great way to manage the demand. You give reservation holders the first crack at it, or maybe people who pre-ordered the first crack, and the people who haven't yet pre-ordered the second crack at it, and then everybody else. But managing it through some sort of a reservation book through the app, might be a good way of doing it. If I was the product manager in charge of that, that's probably what I would do. is build some sort of a reservation system into it. And there's a lot of off-the-shelf reservation systems that can be leveraged, and just needs to be integrated into that. So that would be probably what I would do. As far as the test drives go, though, it really isn't clear to me. We do know that the Center Pluses are going to be kind of like a faucet for a lot of different things: test drives, service, maybe maintenance, places as it's going to serve as a pickup location for people to come get their Fisker Ocean if they don't request home delivery. So there's going to be a variety of different things that they're going to serve as. But the test drives, if we did see some people get into a Fisker Ocean and do test drives in Las Vegas on that parking lot. That's a private parking lot, though. We never saw it leave and go on to the public city roads in Las Vegas. I can't think of any other location. Maybe there is another location, but I can't think of one off the top of my head that people got to sit in or test drive. And I don't know how many people got a chance to do that there. But I would have to imagine they have to be certified for public roads in order to have people do test drives. It's just a guess. But maybe we'll get more clarity on that next week when the stores actually open. So there we go. There's our Center Plus discussion. Now, the next one that I think is kind of interesting, and you guys probably know a lot more about this than I do, is the EV tax credit. So we got some information last week on the EV tax credit from the U.S. Department of Treasury, and they ended up coming out with a lot more guidance on how to get the full credit, that full $7,500 credit. And if the manufacturer, the people making the vehicles, if they only satisfied one of the two requirements, you'd only get half of the credit. So we talked about it earlier. The credit is going to be based on certain sourcing requirements for critical minerals and battery components. So it reads like this. So critical minerals must be either extracted or processed in the United States. Alternatively, they can be sourced from any country with which the United States has a free trade agreement. Another option is for the minerals to be recycled in North America. Now, the IRS or the U.S. Treasury Department, they come up with like this full sliding scale where the critical materials have to increase a certain percentage by 10 percentage points each year until they reach a certain period. So as far as the critical minerals go, the percentage of critical materials starts at 40% in 2023 and increases by 10% annually until it reaches 80% in 2027. Now, the battery components portion requires 50% of the parts to be manufactured or assembled in North America in 2023. This percentage increases by 10% each year and reaches 100% by 2029. So we were all talking about this many months ago about some sort of like phased in approach about like how do they benefit? How do startups like Fisker benefit from this? Is there a phased in approach? Well, lo and behold, the U.S. Treasury does a phased-in approach, but it's all it's my understanding, it's all based around batteries, the components and the minerals. It's really not about just assembly. And assembly used to be one requirement in the old written verbiage. The car has to be assembled in North America, U.S., Canada, Mexico, but the battery component was the other 50%, and the minerals had to be sourced and all this from all over the place, North America primarily, or with a trade partner, et cetera. So they seem to have stuck on the battery. That's like the focus. I don't know why, but as we know, the Fisker Ocean 1, the Extreme Ultra and Sports, manufactured in Graz, Austria. Fisker has considered doing something in the United States, but we haven't heard any more details other than I believe it was last year we heard, I think, the latest talk about that. Henrik was on stage with, I want to say it was Adam Jonas. Not sure if that was the one. I might be getting that foggy, might be getting that wrong in my head with another conference that he attended. But he did talk about he's working with Magna to talk about it. I think it's when he talked about, if I recall, the acai bowl. He met up with Swami, is the CEO, I think, or there's somebody that works over at Magna, and they had breakfast, and he talked about the acai bowl is what he had. I think it was that conversation, if I recall, is when he talked about considering U.S. production with Magna. But that's the latest we heard. We did get new information about the EV tax credit last week. What are your thoughts, gentlemen, on that? What do you think? Whether for Fisker, for EVs in general, the industry, what are your thoughts?
It's as convoluted as you made it sound. I get questions all the time, and I'm telling folks, I say, it seems like it's a moving target. Every time, we get a little bit of an update. Now has to do more with the battery sourcing instead of the assembly. Can we get that granular? Can we say for certain that, this was recycled 100%, in the United States, or we, dug up these rare earth minerals in the United States? You've got a global supply chain. How can you verify that? I mean, it's going to be a heck of a job on somebody to, have to comply and prove that. I guess it's possible, but it seems to be getting more complicated than less complicated. And I'm just going to, when I do get the car, I'm just going to hand it over to the CPA and say, good luck.
Yeah. And Troy mentioned in the comments in the chat, he says it doesn't promote mass EV adoption. I totally agree with that. What are your guys' thoughts, Matt and Jim?
Yeah, I don't think really. I mean, it's changed just slightly, but I mean, it's always been. It has to be. The car has to be assembled in in North
Correct.
America. That is the main thing, and then the batteries make up 50% of each side. So if you get part of one, you still get part. If you get part of the other, you get part. But if the car, and it doesn't matter if the batteries came from the U.S. or wherever, but if the car's not built in the United States or in North America, it still doesn't matter. So that's the biggest thing. So if it's not built here, you're not going to get tax credit. So
correct.
It really doesn't matter where your battery parts are coming from unless it's built here. Now they are saying that, I think it's GM was even saying that their Ultium vehicles that are built on that platform have a good chance, and they may qualify for the full tax credit by the end of the year because they've actually been building those Ultium batteries in the United States, and then it's just going to be.
Yeah, I think they have like 4 factories and being built or already built.
Yeah, so we're ahead of everyone else. Everybody else was getting everything from, China and wherever. So I was surprised to hear that, but they were on top of the ball.
Yeah, I want to add, there are a number of companies that are already looking at producing in the U.S. I know Mercedes with their new SUV models are all made here anyway for the last several years. So all their EV SUVs are going to get the tax credit. Several other companies, I know Hyundai, Kia, most of their cars are made in South Korea. They do with the EV9, I think is going to be the first one made here. So I think it's just going to be a matter of time before all these manufacturers have the capability of, production in the U.S. or at least Canada and Mexico. I know there's several factories in those countries too. So I think it's going to take a while. And I think the list is not even out yet of what is going to comply, I think, for another couple weeks. So like everybody says, it's a mess, and it's going to take a while to sort out.
Yeah, I think that list is coming out, I want to say on the 18th. I think it's the 18th of this month where we're going to end up getting. I think it was Electric that wrote some article that said 16 vehicles as of the day that this came out. They said 16 vehicles based on their research would qualify for the EV tax credit. So I thought that was actually kind of interesting. A couple of the comments, Tommaso says, my take is Manchin did it to submarine EV sales. Troy goes on to say the whole IRA is a hot mess, to be honest. What else do we have in the comments here? Anything else? Those are the only ones I can see off the top of my screen here. So that's so people, it is confusing. Like by no means I'm not a lawyer, and the articles that I read all said pretty much what I ended up covering. I got the bulletin, if you will, from the IRS website and tried to decipher it and put it down into what I thought was layman's terms, while making sure it was accurate. And I'm kind of confused by it, but I think I'm a little bit more clear on it now. I don't necessarily like how they did the phased in approach with the percentages. It seems like a high bar to achieve some of those percentages. Maybe the good news, looking at this, half glass full, would be that the Fisker Pear will be built here in the United States in Lordstown, Ohio. The company being Fisker, it's my understanding they have not chosen or nominated. I think they use a lot of the term nominated. I don't get that language, but they always say like, we nominated this partner or nominated this. I don't know who they're nominating it for. I never understood that. Maybe I'm not the only one. But they haven't chosen a battery partner yet, like they have obviously with the Fisker Ocean. They have partnered with CATL, which is, I believe, the world's largest EV battery manufacturer based in China. I did see an article floating around somewhere that said that CATL was trying to, or CATL, however you say it, they were trying to do something here in North America. And that was around the last time we ended up getting some sort of an update on this EV tax credit, which I believe was like February timeframe. I can't remember, in the beginning of February. So that's good news. So who knows who Fisker is going to nominate for the EV batteries for the Pear. Hopefully it's one that would obviously qualify for the EV tax credit in full, since it's basically predicated on battery requirements. Yeah, that's what we have there.
Also, Ford is opening their own battery factory, and they are they have worked with CATL and using their technology in building the batteries. So that is a way of sourcing, that technology that they didn't already have. They're using CATL's technology to get their battery program started. The other thing is what we talked about last week of the U.S. and Japan making an agreement for
we did see that
battery minerals and stuff. So that will help. That should help speed the process up a little bit. So
we read that last week in the notable EV news, and you've got a couple others that we're going to talk about tonight in the notable EV news. I don't know what the titles are of those ones, but he sent me pictures. So those one of the pictures looked pretty crazy with the wrap. I think it was cool. Any other thoughts on the EV tax credit before we move on?
I just want to mention also, I don't know if we talked about this recently, but with Magna finding a factory or a facility in North America for the Ocean, I think is going to take quite a while. I wouldn't expect anything before 2 years, especially if they have to build something, from scratch. I don't know if Magna has other facilities it can repurpose for EVs. So I haven't heard anything about that in the news. So that's a big question too.
So it would be more of a 2024 thing than obviously in near future 2023. Could even be 2025. I
think the Pear will be out before the Ocean in North America.
Oh wow.
My guess.
Yeah. A lot of this stuff is just our guess or our opinion, but I appreciate it. That's I think you're right though. I think we talked about that as well a while back about the Fisker. I even actually think I may have mentioned will I get my Ocean Sport before I get my Pear? I don't know. So that actually segues us into something else that's kind of an interesting topic. Will I get my Ocean Sport before I get my Pear? So I'm going to share my screen here. Let's see if I can actually share my screen. And I'm going to share something that I thought was kind of surprising earlier today. And if people are on the forums, they probably saw this. In the tone on the forums lately, I think maybe some people who are on Fiskerati forums, it's so negative Nancy lately. And it's not just the Fiskerati forums, it's across
Twitter and stock twits and Instagram.
I can only imagine on stock twits.
I wanted to comment earlier when you were talking about, hopefully when the experience centers open, we get some, user content, people who go to the grand openings, things like that. And I think that would be very welcome, because I don't know if you've noticed it. My posting has slowed down, not because I don't want to post, but because there's less Fisker content coming out to repost. And the reason that is because every time they do post, they are just getting inundated and hammered with, comments about deliveries, comments about the stock price, and all very, soundly. I mean, the people have a right to ask. They've got cars waiting. They're invested in the company. It's we're at that critical stage now.
Yeah, and I think part of it, and we'll dive into this in just a minute, but it's my understanding, and I have this is just based on all the comments that I read. There's a large percentage of customers, at least that are the most vocal and negative, that are both reservation holders and shareholders.
And investors.
Investors, shareholders. Yep. I think a lot of people on certain sites ended up reserving the Fisker Ocean, who were obviously shareholders, as a way to support the company. I will agree, that was exactly what I did, but then I fell in love with the car over the time period that I've been covering it, and I reserved a second Fisker Ocean and then also the Pear, because I really do enjoy the car. I like the car. I test drove the car, and it was a good experience. I had a good experience. So I can only go off of my experience, but that's what I noticed. So it's like when I don't want to get ahead of myself. So I'm going to save this commentary for just a little bit. But for the people who are following along on the YouTube here, I've shared my screen for the people who are listening on the podcast. And thanks for hanging out on the podcast. If you've made it to the 42-minute and 45-second mark, I appreciate that. But today, I ended up seeing on Instagram, you mentioned Instagram, Marty, and on Instagram, we haven't seen a post by Fisker for 6 days. So like you said, a lot of inundation of people who are maybe, I'm not even going to say rightly so, but there's a lot of people who are impatient. This is a process. It takes time to build a car. It takes time to get the government approvals, etc. But people are asking questions. It's the way Fisker communicates. They've adopted social media. People ask questions on their social media, but they haven't posted a photo for 6 days. Somebody commented earlier today, and I took the screenshot about 4 hours after the question was asked. It said, "Can you tell me when the vehicle will be delivered?" Somebody at Fisker who manages the social media responded pretty much right away and said, "Delivery timing will be dependent on your desired trim!" Exclamation point. The Fisker Ocean Extreme is estimated to have delivery timing for later this year. Ocean Ultra and Sport, current delivery timing in 2024. More details will be released later this year, so please make sure to stay tuned. So that, to me, I don't know how many people saw that. So that was that was the first thing I saw. Being somebody who's also reserved the Fisker Ocean Sport, I thought, okay, mentally I was preparing myself to purchase 2 vehicles in 1 year. Never done that in my entire life before. We probably don't need a second vehicle right this minute. You have, I know, Jim. You're the auto trader over there. Literally, the auto trader. You have so many cars go in and out.
I did 3 last year.
Gosh, that's crazy. And how many have you done so far this year? At least 1, right?
3 or 4.
Oh my
God. 3 or 4.
Okay, well, I've never bought a car in 2 cars in 1 year. This will be the first one. So when I saw that and it said that the timing for the Ultra and the Sport was 2024, I thought two things. My first thing was the positive half glass full. And I said, okay, maybe Fisker ended up getting loads of demand for the Fisker Ocean Extreme. That's the car they were going to produce first, right after the Ocean One. Maybe they're getting loads of demand for the Fisker Ocean Extreme. And as a result, there's no longer capacity to build the other trims, the Ultra and the Sport. So they're punting those out a little further into, end of 2023, which is what it used to be, to 2024. That was the first thought. The second thought I had in my head was, okay, homologation for Europe is April 28th. I wonder if, and this kind of goes into the next, I'm going to dovetail this into the Q1 2023 production goal of over 300 by March. I wonder, and I don't know the answer, I would love to know the answer, and I don't think anyone here knows the answer, but Fisker was waiting for the parts for the first 300 Fisker Oceans. They talked about that at the end of February. Did they get the parts? Obviously, I think I mentioned that at the beginning of this, but then did they actually build the first 300 or over 300 in March? And there's I wonder this because I've obviously never been in the car industry. This is the first car that I've ever followed from start to finish, more or less start to finish. Are you able to produce car? I think the answer is yes, because I remember Henrik saying, hey, we're going to build cars and we'll flash them with the latest software and they'll be, ready for delivery.
Running,
the machine's running, etc. But is it smart to build 300 cars without having authorities give you final approval on the homologation? Do you do that? I don't know the answer to that question. What do you guys think? Or what do you know? You may know the answer. I have no idea.
I don't know the answer. 300 cars seems like a lot, but also when you're building a brand new product from scratch, and whether it's widgets or lawn chairs or cars, you're going to need cars to train technicians on. You're going to need cars to put in the showroom. You're going to need maybe 15 of those cars to hand over to Magna. We have a 300 car fleet order, which may be the one that goes out first. We don't know. But that was something that was announced pretty quickly after start of production. SOP November, we were all counting down the days. And then shortly thereafter, we had a revised ramp schedule. And the first part of that ramp schedule was the 300 cars end of Q1. And so, we might have 800 cars sitting somewhere in a warehouse. I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. Fisker's not telling us. So we're just kind of waiting and speculating. But, to me, I'll just say it. Strike one was SOP, whether that was true SOP or not. Strike two is the Q1 300 cars. So, 428, that's kind of an exact date. We better see something, or people are going to continue to be frustrated, I think.
I think you're right. I think there's going to be a lot of people who continue to get frustrated when Fisker releases a hard date and doesn't meet the hard date. People do get frustrated. However, the SOP, the November, was it November 17th, 2022? Yeah. They did hit SOP. I think there was people who weren't familiar with the definition of SOP and what that actually meant. I can't remember the verbiage off the top of my head. I didn't think about it. I didn't know we were going to talk about that SOP. But I did post something on the Fiskerati forums a couple months ago after the SOP happened. I don't know if it just automatically surfaced online, but there was I want to say it was like a contract manufacturing agreement or some sort of an agreement with Magna that defined the terms of the high level terms of the agreement and definitions of specific words like SOP. There was SOP, then there was I want to say there's something called SORP. There was another thing which I can't remember what it stands for. I can pull that up maybe later in the episode and have a look. But that I think it was called SORP, and SORP. Maybe someone can find it in the comments or correct me. I think Tommaso, you ended up chatting with me about that when I think we chatted about that. Maybe you know what I'm talking about. But that was the definition. Whatever SORP was, that was the definition of what we all thought potentially SOP was, where there's actually going to be customer deliveries.
Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you're saying. I do recall, Henrik posting, deliveries end of November, and things change. If we don't have the parts, you don't have the parts.
Things
So
change.
That's changed. You have to adapt to the world that is not the world that we wish. So, when we heard the good news, which is, hey, here's the, Fisker Magna, revised ramp Q1, Q2, Q3, everybody talks and says, well, we're definitely going to have 42,000 cars. Okay, well, to get to 42,000, you got to start with 300, and you got to have the 8,000. I mean, just like it was laid out. So, I think from a fan perspective, and also from an investor perspective, and from someone who has a car on order ready to be delivered, you want to see that is happening according to the plan, or the revised plan now. So, I think we're all eager to see it follow through and be successful. But, with November and now Q1, April is critical.
Yeah. So Jim and Matt, do you guys have any thoughts on this?
Not really.
One thing I want to bring up is that, remember the start of production being November, and we know that it takes anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks or more to ship a car, or, to get it to, through the factory, ship it. So I was never expecting anything before January or even February, even back in like quite a while ago. So I never really considered start of production, really having that many cars. And they also did mention it was that last quarter of the year was only going to be several dozen cars that were going to be sent to Magna.
They did say that, yeah, the 15.
And yeah, not even several dozen. And we have no idea how many have been made so far. And, anybody who says it's zero is just as correct as somebody who says they made 600 at this point, until we get something from the company. I got a feeling that it's not a whole lot. Maybe it has something to do with the parts, getting the parts in. But the getting certified, I think, is the big thing, because if they make too many cars and something has to change, it costs a lot of money to go back and fix, hundreds or thousands of cars. So I can understand why they want to maybe hold that back a little bit. But until we find out from the company, we just don't know.
We did, to tack on to what you said, we did find out on the last earnings conference call that, I think that was February 27th, was 56 Fisker Oceans have been built up to that point on the call. There was a mention of 56 Fisker Oceans that were built. But then they said, hey, we have to wait to get parts for the next 300 or for the first 300. And then, we that was March, but they talked about that at the end of February. So that's kind of it's like a cliffhanger of a story. It's like, well, what happened? Like that's interesting to me. And I hope we find out soon. I think it would be good to get those details. Jim, do you have any questions or thoughts on whether they built the cars without getting the certification?
I know, not really. I mean, I think we all, and maybe some knew more than others about how the production went. I mean, I think originally when we heard state of production, we were all thinking this is the start of them building the cars and getting them going. But I don't think a lot of us really dug deep enough to find out how these certifications and all the stuff that has to be done and I don't know if this happens with every car that comes out, or if it's just for startups. I don't know how that works. But this is the first time I've heard of this homologation thing. I've never heard of that before, so it was new to me, and I'm like, okay, now what's going on? And I think a lot of people are like that. A lot of people don't know all the background intricacies of what has to happen to go along with. So everybody's like just trying to figure out what is going on. It was this, and now it's this, and now it's this, and we still haven't seen any cars. And I think that's what's getting for everybody frustrated, is the expectation that we had versus the reality of what has to go on before it happens.
Yeah, I agree. I think the startups have a harder time with the certifications because it's all new to them versus Ford or GM or any of those companies that have done these things thousands of times. They have systems and processes for doing these things that are just, it's, I guess, normal to them. So yeah, I'm guessing that's what the big thing is.
That's an excellent point.
Yeah. And I'll kind of tack on to what Marty said earlier. I kind of share different maybe view as well. Like looking at this whole, whether I saw that, whether it was the post to Instagram today talking about deliveries, coming from a company and starting startups on my own, I've always tried to be customer centric and always focused on the customer. And anytime I'm looking at anything, like granted, I do hold shares in the company, but I always look at everything from the customer. I try to look at everything for the customer perspective. Like I'm a Fisker Ocean One customer, and that's more important to me. And being totally straight and candid with everybody, that's the most important thing to me, being the customer more than the shareholder. The shareholder is great, and that's something aside. But like being the customer, if they get the customer experience right, everything should take care of itself for the business. And that's why I actually asked that question today is the poll. So I want to bring this back to the poll question. We asked the question earlier, which now has 117 votes. If you haven't answered the poll yet, answer the poll. But the customer experience is the most important part for any company, whether you're Amazon, which is where I previously worked. They're the world's, their mission, the world's most customer-centric, maybe it's planet's most customer-centric company. I know they're the world's most customer-centric company, and I believe that having worked there and having a customer focus on everything. I digress. Poll question: what is the most crucial factor for you as a Fisker Ocean customer? There wasn't an all of the above option, but the 4 choices: exceptional customer service, superior product quality, responsive to customer feedback, and lastly, transparent and honest communication. I'm going to end the poll. We have 118 votes. We should see the results down at the bottom. The winner of the poll was superior product quality at 64% of the vote. Second, transparent and honest communication at 24%. Number 3, exceptional customer service, 6%. And lastly, responsive to customer feedback, 4%. 118 people took that poll and voted. Thank you, everyone who did that. That was, I think that might be the biggest poll, number of respondents that we ever had in the poll on one of these. So thanks to everybody that took that poll. The reason I put that there is because taking care of the customer should always be the number one thing. And if you aren't making your customers happy, at the end of the day, that's not helping your business. And the number one stakeholder is always the customer, hands down. Whether I worked at the Four Seasons, I've worked at Amazon, those 2 companies, customer was always number one. They always said customers right. I don't believe that, but focusing and building products with a customer-centric, customer-focused hat on, you build something that people want. And I think, as we all know, Fisker has built something that people want. They built the product. I think, hands down, everyone would agree that they want, I would hope everyone who tunes in every week here and follows along wants a Fisker Ocean. I would imagine it's more of a want than maybe a need. You want the Fisker Ocean. I want a Fisker Ocean more than the Tesla that I have down in the garage. I want it. It's not a need. I don't need it. I want it. So that's what's they've definitely created the desire. But there's so much more than just the superior product, building a superior product. The quality is important. That kind of ties back maybe to the homologation, to running tests, making sure everything works right, and making sure that it'll get approved. But then you get to, one of the options was transparent and honest communication. That's important. Talking to your customer, telling your customer what's going on, super important. Granted, Fisker is, you could say they're a startup in the automotive EV world, but when I think of startup, I think of two guys and a dog sitting in a garage coding, a website or an app. Different definition of startup. There may be a startup, to your point, Matt, in the automotive space, in the automotive sector, a little harder for them to do stuff. But yeah, transparent, honest communication, more frequent communication, I think is always better. I would, as a customer of the Fisker Ocean, as a Fisker customer, more communication, the better. You will never flood my inbox with too much communication. I much prefer communication about the process and what's going on, more so than getting, salesy emails about reserving my Fisker Ocean, configuring my Fisker Ocean. I've already done that stuff. Fisker should know what I've done. Send me stuff that's relevant to where I'm at in the customer journey. That would be super helpful. And right now in the customer journey, as people who follow along know, I'm waiting to finance the Fisker Ocean. That'll be probably the next thing that I do. Maybe even trade in the Fisker, my car for a Fisker Ocean. Who knows? But those are the things that I'm waiting for. That's the communication I want. I want to be kept in the loop. So that's that's my thoughts. But there's a lot more to it than just building a good product. There's just taking care of the customer all the way around, responsive to trouble tickets or to inquiries with the rag giver, to making sure that just I guess maybe what I'm trying to say is just make sure you're just taking care of everybody, taking care of your customer, putting your customer first. I'm curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are on customer experience, customer experience beyond the Fisker Ocean, the amazing product that we're all waiting for. Do you guys have thoughts on that? Putting your customer-centric hat on?
I think one thing that's going to be difficult is if you don't live in an area where there's going to be a customer service center, which is only going to be in large cities and very few in the beginning. I think customer service is going to be virtual, and it's going to have to be email and all that. And so I think that's going to be the thing that they're going to have to do the best. Until they get big enough to have physical locations. That just seems like something that makes sense at this point.
Yeah, I agree, and which is why I chose on that poll was the build quality. If I got a good car and a good built, a very well built car, then I shouldn't have to worry about my customer service.
Yeah.
So that is my, and not having a service center to take things to. So that would be the most important thing for me. Then I don't have to worry about taking it somewhere or getting a hold of somebody because there's an issue.
And I agree with you, Sean. More communication is better, not just from an investor perspective, but also from a customer perspective. And as we make this transition from, an all digital car company to actually having physical locations, lounges, and service centers, tangibles like a keychain, test drives. Those are all going to be things that, make this real and not just sketches or a car or two at a trade show. Going to see these cars driving around soon, hopefully in Europe next month. And then, I think that's going to be, the game changer we're all been waiting for. And then Fisker can come back to social media and people can, happy, provided that also we get that same certification here in the United States and some type of time frame, like you're saying, you're going to apply for financing. I'm going to apply for financing too, but you know when I'm going to do it? When I know there's a car coming. And right now, being in Florida, we know what's going on for the EU. We don't have that for the US just yet. So.
Yeah, and by the way, what did you vote for on the poll? I forgot to ask you, Matt, too. Did either of you have a chance
build
to
quality?
Vote?
Yeah, just
build
like
quality.
Jim said, if the car is great and you don't have problems, you don't really need customer service as much. So.
And I'm the odd man out. I wanted to put build quality because that to me, seems like the obvious one. And you guys are 100% right on it. But because of the lack of communication and transparency, that's how I was feeling tonight. So that's what I answered tonight. Any other day, I'd be like, yeah, absolutely, knock it out of the park. Give me, a car that, shoots fireworks into the sky and does all the great things. But, the way things have been going, kind of wish we just had more information. And to, in Fisker's defense, they might not have it. They, whether it's, whatever the regulatory body here is in the States that, handles that part of the certification, they just might not have given them a date. It could happen anytime. We don't know. And if Fisker doesn't know, they can't communicate to that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I couldn't vote on the poll because I created the poll, but I think all of them are important. Like I mentioned, I couldn't have a fifth option on there, but all of the above. I think exceptional customer service is probably the one that I would have selected, because that one kind of, requires everything. It's kind of a holistic. You can put everything under exceptional customer service to some extent, from reserving a Fisker Ocean to servicing the Fisker Ocean, asking questions about the experience, test driving it, all sorts of stuff. I think that one, I should have put actually maybe exceptional customer experience. I think if I could reword that, I would have probably put exceptional customer experience instead of service, because customer experience incorporates the customer service and, touching the product, playing with the product, interacting with, staff, etc. But yeah, that's where I'm at. So before we move on, I think you want to chat about something else, Matt,
yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, I just wanted to go quick back to the startup production conversation. Yeah. I don't know if you have the chart up yet.
Oh, let me pull it up. There we go.
This is an interesting chart I found on the Lyric production. As you know, GM's over 100-year-old company, and even they are having problems with startup production. Lyric had started production March of last year. They didn't start producing cars until July for sale. And if you look, it's 12, 12, 12, 29, 29, 29. They didn't start really increasing it until January of this year. So that's like 10 months after started production. And I've heard that there has been issues with the battery or other issues on the drivetrain system that's affecting this. So even well-experienced companies are having problems with EVs, even though everybody says EVs are easy and simple. I don't think production is always easy and simple. But I just found this interesting. I didn't realize the numbers were that low, considering it started in March of last year.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Seeing that. So yeah, thanks for sharing that one. That's pretty cool. So let's move over to something else. Let's go ahead quickly and talk about. I think Marty mentioned earlier. I mentioned it during the news. The excitement, I would say, around the Fisker Ocean One. I have this ready to share on my screen. So we have the Ocean One keychains. You have for the people that are listening and can't actually see the picture of this, it's a rectangular keychain. You have a silver metal, which is kind of in the inner portion of the rectangular fabric, faux leather portion of the keychain, and it reads ONE. The O happens to be the Fisker emblem, the Fisker logo, and these are the ones that were sent out earlier today to people. Maddie Hugh, who is the member that posted them. So thank you, Maddie, for sharing that. It was pretty neat, a neat surprise to wake up to and see that this morning. And I wasn't actually the first to see it. Other people saw it, and I thought, wow, that's actually pretty cool. That's a pretty neat thing.
So they combined two things in that. I see. That looks like the one logo that's on the back of the hatch, right?
Mm-hmm.
Combined.
Yeah,
with
I wonder if
Fisker,
it has. I wonder.
Very similar.
Very similar. Yeah, the same stylized writing, at least of
Yeah.
the N and the E.
Instead of the O, it's got the Fisker logo where the O would be.
That's right.
That's kind of a neat way of doing it, I guess.
Did someone on the forum?
So.
Did someone on the forum mention that was available for purchase too? Like if you were buying an Extreme, let's say, if you wanted to.
Yeah, Bayou Bob mentioned that. I couldn't find it on the configurator when I went and looked today. He said, "Oh, it's on the Extreme." So I can't verify that, but he said it was on there. Maybe it was a joke. I don't know. I replied back and said, "Is that a joke or are you serious?" I couldn't find it. So I don't know if you can purchase these. These seem to me like it's a special gift to a Fisker Ocean One, owner, future Fisker Ocean One owner. Create some excitement, some buzz around it. Hey, we're still thinking about you. This is our way of communicating to you without actually writing a note, writing an email. I thought that was actually pretty cool. And that's the packaging. I put the packaging on the screen. It's called maybe a kind of a rectangular package, a squarish rectangular package with that's all black and has the Ocean One branding on the top of it. So that's what we saw. And I think I have maybe one more photo that Maddie, you shared. Let's go ahead and take a look at this one. I think it's the Fisker Ocean One keychains sitting in the actual box itself. So it's got some sort of there's an indentation, or I don't know what the right way of saying it, but they lay nicely in the packaging. And you can see the stitching on it. Who knows if it's Black Abyss Plus or if it's leather or maybe some other sustainable material. But anyhow, that's pretty neat. I thought that was pretty exciting. So that's what we got there. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, so to speak. The elephant in the room, so to speak, was the Fisker share price. It's what we opened the show with, reading of the news. The share price, Fisker share price, hitting an all-time low today, in closing down. What percentage was it? It closed down 7.59% at $5.36 per share, 3 cents off of its all-time low. And that's all I'm going to say. If you guys want to comment on it, feel free to do so. What are your thoughts? I'll go with you, Marty. What are your thoughts on the stock hitting an all-time low? You're up first.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer, but again, in the absence of any kind of news, it's heavily shorted, as we had discussed. We weren't the only EV, in the crapper today. A lot of, I think all the EV sector was down today, top to bottom. I think. I don't know if we led that or not. I know Polestar was down, I think, like 6 or 7% at one point. I didn't see how the day ended or how Rivian or the other was. It's just a sea of red, so I kind of tuned it out.
I got the numbers right here. Rivian was down 4.9%. Lucid was down 3%. QuantumScape was down 8.1%, and Tesla was down 4.4%. So,
and I'll tack on 2 more to that are also in the EV space, not EV manufacturers, but EVgo was down 9.42%, and ChargePoint was down 6.79%. So it doesn't look like it was just EV car makers. It was a lot of EV, anything in general. Yeah, so that's so one thing that I mentioned earlier was that and I think you mentioned it, Marty, the comments on the social media for Fisker, pretty much in my when I view them, all I see is comments from what appear to be angry shareholders. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of them, and it actually, being candid with everybody, it actually is. It's not fun to read the comments. I used to enjoy reading the comments on the social media posts, but I guess we're in a time period where people are very upset because the stock has gone down, and obviously nobody wants to lose money. To your point, the other side of the trade, there's clearly people that are making money on doing this, which is sure, in my opinion, sad. But Fisker's on the most shorted stock list on MarketWatch, number 11. And I don't know how frequently that list is updated, but last I looked, and I think I posted in the Fiskerati forum a while back, it was in the 20s before. Now it's number 11. And the short interest for the longest time was stuck around 35%. It's now 38.84% according to Fintel. So it's increased. So yeah, it's just it's like from one shareholder to another, there's a better forum to communicate, your dissatisfaction than in the comments on social media in a photo. Like, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
But to me, there's a better way of doing that.
I'll just say this. Every time I get upset about the share price or the market or whatever, I go look in the mirror and I say, all right, you picked this. No one held a gun to my head and said, hey, I'm going to invest in Fisker. And a lot of folks, were riding, whether it was the SPAC wave or they were riding the EV wave or they were riding just the, momentum of the stock market, whatever, brought them here to invest in Fisker. That's what they chose to do. And, a month from now, they might be like, God, I am so brilliant. I'm so glad I stuck with it and whatever. But that's what we don't know. We don't know how, the war in Ukraine is going to turn out. We don't know how supply chains will be affected. We don't know how inflation is going to impact things. We don't know what's going to go with certain governing bodies that have to, approve vehicles. So, there's a lot of uncertainty, high risk, high reward, et cetera. But, you can be mad, but you can only be mad to a certain point. It's not Henrik's fault. I'm sure he's got something invested and on the line too, probably more than any of us. So, I think there's alignment. Everybody wants the same thing, but, we just have to stay patient.
Yeah, as while you guys were doing that, I was pulling up some other quotes just to try to give us a well-rounded view of the EV space. Solid Power battery maker, who's partnered, I believe, with Ford, maybe even BMW. Their stock was down nearly 7% today, and that was one that I saw. That's the only one I had a chance to type in. I used to have a whole list of SPACs. There was like 200 SPACs. And I wish I had that. I wish I had that list because that was a great list to see. Let's pull up Fisker's partner, Allego. I think they're a publicly traded company. That stock down only 3%, up surprisingly 7.96% in the after hours. That's interesting. But yeah, there's a lot of. Oh, here's my list of hundreds of SPACs. I just found it in my email. Let's see if there's any here that I can find. Oh, there's just too many. Too many, but they all range from down. They're not all EV related, but EVgo is an example, down 9.42% today. So that was another big one here that popped up on the list. STEM, a clean energy company, down 10.6%. Geez, yeah, there's a lot of them. Automotive down 10.79%. Yeah, there's definitely things took a beating today. Proterra, they make electric buses, down 7.3%. Let's see here. What else do we have? There's just so many. I don't know. It's hard to go through all of them in real time, but there's a lot of them. I think we all get the point. The stocks went down today. It is what it is. On a positive note, does anybody know what this month is? What this month is titled, or what are April is the month of? Anybody know the answer to that one? Moving on to something maybe more.
Easter?
Maybe more interesting. Yes, that's right. It's the month of Easter, but no, there's something else that ties back to Fisker at least, and EVs in general. You
got me stumped.
Got you stumped. What else happens in the middle, April 22nd? Anybody know?
Not on my tax day.
It warms up and you get more range.
Yeah, right. It's Earth Day later this month. Yeah. I think it's April 22nd, but I was in my LinkedIn earlier today, and I got saw a post from Walt Disney, and they're celebrating Earth Month. And I guess Earth Month takes place during April every year for the last, I want to say it's like 50-something years. And I think it's something like that. Or maybe it's Earth Day was 50-something years. But I guess it's a time to raise environmental awareness and create consciousness around the issues that affect Mother Nature during this time of crisis. So there's a whole website that explains this, and I thought, that's kind of neat. I thought I'd just mention it tonight. since the Fisker Ocean is trying to be the world's most sustainable vehicle, it ties to Earth Day. And last year, if I recall, I think it was last year, they ended up on, I think they did a pop-up location in Santa Barbara. Maybe it was the year before that, but I think it was last year where they popped up at an Earth Day event. And we haven't heard anything whether or not they're going to pop up at that Santa Barbara event again. But I thought that was kind of neat. And you know, we're kicking things off this month. Maybe we'll see, you know, more posts around sustainability and things like that. Whether you follow Fisker or you follow other companies, I follow Disney. I'm a big Disney fan, so I thought that was pretty cool. Kind of tied into the, you know, Fisker and their mission. So kind of neat. So anyhow, that's I think everything that I ended up putting on my list tonight to talk about. I think there's been a couple questions in the room. Yeah, maybe Rosanna says maybe something this Earth Day. I hope they do something. Fisker does something this Earth Day. You know, it definitely ties to their brand and their vision. So doing something I think would be kind of cool, and it gives people an opportunity to go see the Fisker Ocean. Maybe they do something in more than one city if they have the resources. That would actually be pretty cool. And yeah, so that's that. Santa Barbara was last year. Okay, thanks, Tommaso, for confirming that. You ended up going up there, I recall. You looked it up this morning. No mention for the Santa Barbara event this year, April 29th and 30th. So that's maybe TBD. Maybe we'll hear something. Maybe we won't. I think Tommaso shared photos. That was one of the first times that I saw the Fisker Ocean interior show up on the forum, and I thought that's actually pretty cool. And it was the first time I got a better understanding of the materials that were made. And I was so confused at the beginning with all the different terms, the sustainable terms that Fisker had. And since then, they've provided a lot more detail, the eco leather and eco suede and eco fabric and all that good stuff. So anyhow, I don't know if you guys see any questions in there. Kenny asks, are we going to have April showers? I'm not sure if there'll be April showers. We definitely had a lot of rain last week. I know you're joking around, but hopefully we're done seeing rain here. Let's see here. I'm going to go to the top of the stream here and see what questions we have. Are there other?
In the meantime, I got one that was asked right here recently.
Okay.
It was asking about my Lyric production chart. He was curious how Magna compares to Cadillac in quality. And I would say Magna has produced the BMW 5 Series in their factory, the Toyota Supra, the Jaguar I-Pace, the Mercedes G-Wagon, and I think a few others are done at that factory. So they're well-regarded vehicles, high-quality vehicles. So I don't doubt that Magna can't build a good car. So
yeah, and that's an impressive operation. I would say definitely an impressive operation, having been on the floor and walking it. The high technology of the machines, totally state of the art. I've never seen anything be built the size of a vehicle before, but the robotics, is fascinating. I've seen Amazon fulfillment centers in person and seeing the robots there. Picking and packing is pretty phenomenal, but seeing the car and all the tack welds and the spray booth and just everything is just phenomenal to see a car build. It's been quite a journey. So while we wait for questions, if you have questions, we may not have the answers to, but if you want to post them, maybe people in the chat have them. I certainly don't know everything. And there's people much smarter than me that are a part of this show, both on the stream and in the chat. So post your questions. We'll have a look at them. While we're doing that, Jim has shared some notable EV news. The first one is a 2025 Ram 1500 REV or Rev. What's this thing all about, Jim?
Okay, so they released the concept earlier this year, and then this is the production model. When they released this just the other day at the New York International Auto Show, they actually have given up some numbers on this stuff. So this Ram EV is going to come with two different battery sizes, and the first one's going to be 168 kilowatt hour with up to a 350 mile range. And the second one's going to be 229 kilowatt hours with up to a 500-mile range. Towing is going to be about 14,000 pounds, which is about 4,000 more pounds than the F-150 Lightning. And the payload is going to be 2,700 pounds, which is almost 1,000 more pounds than the Lightning. Charging speed is going to be up to 350 kilowatts DC fast charging on an 800-volt architecture, which they said can add up to 110 miles of range in about 10 minutes. Their top trim is going to be called Tungsten, and it's going to incorporate a 23-speaker Klipsch audio system, and it's going to have 22-inch wheels. It's also going to have a 7.2 kilowatt onboard power in the bed and 3.6 kilowatts in the frunk. The power on it's going to be 654 horsepower, 620 torque, 0 to 60 in 4.4 seconds. We also have, let's see, it could drive through up to 2 feet of water. This one was kind of interesting. They brought out the drag coefficient. It said the drag coefficient was 0.34. I didn't get a chance to check on the Lightning or the Rivian at what it is, but they were making a point to announce it. So I think it is probably a little bit lower than those two. And it's going to have vehicle to everything power. So vehicle to load to home to wherever.
Hey, Jim,
so
just to interrupt.
Yeah.
Just to interrupt, the R1T is 0.30 and the Lightning is 0.44.
Ooh, man, that's ouch on the Lightning.
Yeah. And guess what the Hummer is?
That thing's like 0.5 something.
0.5.
Yeah. Wow. That thing is a giant brick. So that's what I got on that, which is pretty cool that they've given out all the numbers. Unlike somebody else that we know, don't have any numbers out for theirs yet. Okay, so the next one we have is the Volkswagen ID.7. Now, this is scheduled for production for 2025 or late 2024. And we have numbers on this one also. So it's going to be built on the MEB platform, which what Volkswagen uses for the ID.4 and ID.3. This one is also going to have 2 battery sizes. Now, we're only going to get one battery size in the US, and it's going to be the 77 kilowatt hour, the same one they use in the ID.4. It will be it'll be rear wheel drive. This is going to have an all new motor, electric motor on this one compared to what the ID.4 had. So this is going to have 282 horsepower rear wheel drive and 402 foot-pounds of torque. So that is a huge amount of torque coming out of that electric motor. And the ID.4, just for comparison, was 201 horsepower and 229 foot-pounds of torque. So that's a huge jump there. Now, the drag coefficient on this one is 0.23, which is the same as the Model 3. So that's pretty impressive. It is a little bit bigger car. So the range on this one, this is all done, I think, with the 77 kilowatt hour battery. Says it's 382 miles for the WLTP. So they're approximately estimating somewhere around the 320 mile mark on an EPA. Later, they will be adding an 86 kilowatt hour battery, but that will not be for the US from what I'm understanding. And that one could reach 350 plus miles EPA. The test drives that were done on this were done with a European spec prototype, and they were saying that it's about 85% complete. The base price on this is supposed to be starting out at approximately $55,000, and the top end Pro S Plus will top out somewhere around $63,000. They will be built in Germany, so there won't be any tax credit available for that. What else do we got? It does have a new 15-inch infotainment screen, so that is 3 inches bigger than they had in the ID4, and it has a brand new software. Now, the software has always been issues in the ID4. Now, whether they didn't fix the old one completely yet, but now they have a new one. So now I don't know whether that's a good thing to have another new software or not. But I think people were talking that they may be using a little bit of software or been working with Porsche on their software. And if that's the case, then that is probably going to be a little bit better. And they say they do all come with heads-up display, all trim levels. Now, I don't know if they were also in a European spec prototype, so I don't know if that's just European spec. Seems like sometimes with the head-up displays in Europe, they end up not making it over to the United States models. This also, the last thing on this one is there is going to be an all-wheel drive version later on, and they're saying it should add about another 100 horsepower and another 100 to the torque, which would mean you'll be looking at about a 400 horsepower and 500 foot-pounds of torque.
All right, let's go ahead and look at this crazy-looking car.
Yeah. So this one, can anybody tell what that is?
Is that a Mini?
Is it a Mini
Yep,
Countryman?
It is a Mini. Yep.
I used to own a Mini, so.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so this is the 2024 Mini Countryman EV that they're working on. Now, there's not a whole lot of information about these right now, but they are saying it's going to a single drive motor, will have 188 horsepower, and they will have an all-wheel drive model that will have 308 horsepower. Later, they're going to do a performance version called the John Cooper Works model, and what they're going to call the E, so it'll be the Mini Countryman E, will get a 54 kilowatt hour battery. So it's not going to have a lot of range. SE will have a 64.7 kilowatt hour battery, and that one came out to about 280 miles WLTP. So we're probably looking at maybe 210, 220 EPA. And then also working on a 2025 Mini Aceman EV, which I've heard them talk about this probably over the last 6 months or so. They've kind of mentioned it here and there. It's going to have a single motor, 176 horsepower, 40 kilowatt hour battery with about 186 miles of WLTP. So I'm guessing somewhere probably in the 130, 140 range EPA. And then they'll have an SE trim that will boost up the power to about 215 horsepower, and it will get the 54 kilowatt hour battery, which will be 249 miles of WLTP, approximately probably 200 miles of EPA. And that is all I've got for the EV news this week.
Thanks, Jim. That was great. So we do have a couple questions in the chat, and before we do, if you haven't hit the like button, hit the like button. That like button. We're at 52 likes. There's still, surprisingly, it says there's 110 people watching. Good heavens! So if you haven't hit the like button, if you just came on, hit the like button. That way we can the video gets shared with other people who enjoy Fisker as much as we do. And maybe on the count of 3, hit the like button if you haven't already done that. So 1, 2, 3, hit the like button, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much. We went from 52 to 60. Maybe we'll get 75, and we can share some exciting news. Maybe we have more exciting news to share. Maybe we don't.
Sure, I can share one more. I can share something else.
Oh, Jim's got more exciting news. So maybe we can get to 75 likes. We're at 62. While we're doing that, let's look at the questions. Someone had a question. Will the Fisker Ocean have a dog mode? as far as the software goes, we don't know if there'll actually be a software like maybe in the Tesla where you have actually dog mode. Maybe there will, maybe there won't. I haven't seen anything like that. Maybe you guys have.
However, a lot of companies are copying that now. So
okay,
yeah,
I think it
shouldn't be that hard to add.
Yeah, I think it's real good. It just really puts the air conditioning on. And in the Fisker Ocean, you have the doggy windows in the rear, and maybe it could do something cool with that. It could crack those down or do something like that. But yeah, the windows in California mode roll all the way down, and that's good if you have children in the car and dogs and yourself. Obviously, you don't leave your child in the car or a dog in the car. But if you were to have a pet and you did want a dog mode, we don't know if that's going to be enabled via software, if it'll actually be a feature altogether. But like Matt said, maybe more car companies are adopting that, so maybe we'll see something there. So more details to hopefully come on that one. Next question, we've got two for you, Matt. First question, what do you plug into that charger behind you there? What's that charger all about? Talk about that charger behind you.
Yeah, it's for a 2018 Model 3, a long-range rear-wheel drive. It's going to hit 5 years old next month.
Ooh, that's old. That's old. We got another question for you, Matt. They actually say Matt. The next one, Matt. That would be actually the same person. It says Matt. This is a personal one, so if you don't want to answer, don't answer.
Oh, I think I answered that one already.
Oh, you may have already done that.
I think I did.
Are you in the Tar Heel Sports Car Club?
Yeah, I'm not, but I'm in other car things around the local area. So.
Okay. Another question. Somebody asked. It might have actually been the same person. I think it's. Is it Kenny? I might have got that right. Okay. He asked this question as well. What reservation number did paraphrasing here, what reservation number did the person who shared those Ocean One keychains have? So I just looked that up on the Fiskerati forums. Matty Hugh had sequence number 2354. That is his sequence number. His reservation date was January 9th, 2020. Order date, July 5th, 2022. His lock date was March 13th, 2023. His delivery quarter, Q2, Q3. He went ahead and pre-ordered and locked in a Fisker Ocean One with a silver lining exterior, a Black Abyss Plus interior, and F3A slipstream wheels, along with some accessories, floor mats, and emergency kit. Thank you, Matty Hugh, again for sharing those. He also resides in Ontario, Canada, for those that are interested. Thank you to Tommaso. He went ahead and looked up SORP. SORP, we talked about that earlier. We have SOP, then you have SORP. SORP means the completion of the launch activities to enable Magnet to commence the serial manufacture of vehicles for Fisker for the mass market supply. So that's what we had there. And then what else? I think that's more or less all the questions that I could find. When will the first delivery happen? Soon after April 28th, which is what the expected European homologation date is. By the 28th of April is when that government approval or regulatory approval should happen. It'll happen thereafter. That could be days, weeks after, soon after. So that's the latest we have on the questions that were in the thread. Have you guys seen any others that have popped up by chance?
I see a couple more.
Okay.
Somebody mentioned something about the retractable rear window is, on some cars. One that I think of is a Toyota 4Runner, I think, is the one with the rear window that goes down, right? There's a few, not many SUVs have the rear window that descends.
Ford Bronco had it, at least from 90 to 96 or 92 to 96. I'm not sure about those years, but I had a 94 and it went down.
Yeah, I've never owned a car that's had a rear one, a rear window that goes down. The closest thing I had was a Toyota Tacoma that had the sliding windows or whatever in the back. And I love that. I almost always drove with those open. I love the breeze, of in the cabin. And when we take the Tesla out all the time, I almost always have the windows down and the electric seat warmers on. I love having the seat warmers on. I had them on all day today going to Legoland and back. Even if it's warm out, I think I mentioned this to somebody. I don't know where I mentioned it, but like I run a lot and try to run every single day, and having the seat warmers on for the little that we drive, I always have them on because it makes my back feel good. It's like a heat, it's like a heating pad for my back. Totally random, but somebody, we was actually chatting. It was, I think, Jevs in the Fiskerati forums. We're talking about the electric seat warmers. And I said, if you think the electric seat warmers are awesome, go get an electric blanket for your bed. And then somebody shared that they had an electric blanket for their dog to lay on in, maybe all year round or in the winter. But electric blanket for the bed, if you guys have never tried that, oh my God, it's amazing. Okay, sorry, Matt, you saw something else.
There was a second one here about asking our experience with tires and EVs. And I could give my experience is my first set of tires lasted 22,000 miles. And my second set is almost 40. And I think a lot of it depends on the tire itself, how you drive. EVs are heavy and they do have a lot of torque, so they tend to use up tires a bit quicker. But also, if you drive city versus highway makes a big difference too. I drive a lot of city and I get a lot of wear. So if you do a lot of highway, it'll last longer, less braking, etc. So a lot of it depends on the car too.
Yeah, and I don't have loads of experience with an EV. I think we owned our EV now coming up probably on a year and 8 months, I would say. So I haven't had my car nearly as long as you, Matt. We still have the original tires on it. They look virtually brand new. We did the longest, I want to say there's just a tad over 17,500 miles on the car. And it's I guess 2021, August 2021. And the tires they don't look obviously brand new, but they look pretty new. And I can assure you, when I sell the vehicle to help pay down the Fisker Ocean One, I'm not going to replace the tires, just like I'm not going to replace the windshield that has a rock chip in it, which I had fixed by Safely Auto Repair. If you guys have ever used them, I love that. I love that company. But you can still see the rock chip in the windshield. I'm not going to fix that either. I'm not going to replace the wheels. The brakes are great because the car kind of slows down on its own with the regenerative braking. So I'm not going to replace that. I think I'm just going to sell it as is and hopefully get as top dollar as I can. I'm unlikely to trade it in, whether it be with the Fisker trade-in program or maybe CarMax or Carvana. They have trade-in program. A lot of companies have those cash offer trade-in programs. I don't think I'm going to do that. However, I am tracking the Fisker trade-ins. For those that haven't done it yet, it's worth going into if you have the ability to go into your price estimator, put in your VIN number of your existing car, get an idea right now, this week, today, whenever you have a free time, what Fisker is going to offer you today, because whenever it's time to do it, you might want to do it again and you can see what the price difference is. It either is going to go up or go down. In my case, it's going up incrementally week after week. I think it's gone up maybe $1,500 or thereabouts since I started tracking it. Yesterday, Matt told me that his went down close to $1,000. 900, was it 900 and something?
920, I think it was. Yeah, for so about 3 weeks.
Yeah, I checked mine last night again, right after you posted that. Curious, because I had just checked it a couple days ago, and mine went down. I think it was like $25. So it'd be interesting to see for our cars. We have the Tesla Model 3. If the EV tax credit is going to impact it or not. I don't know. Like, we're hoping maybe it'll go up $7,500, maybe wishful thinking. Who knows what's going to happen there, but maybe we'll see something on there. So anyhow, you probably saw another question, and I'm babbling about tires, but our tires look good looking tires. Gonna keep those tires. Question here. So buy tires every couple of years. Depends on how much you drive, right? If you, I drove the most mileage. Like I think we had maybe 6,000 miles on our car before we went and took it to maybe it was 6,000, maybe it was 9,000. I can't exactly remember, but it has over 17,500 miles now. Most of that driving happened this past year when we ended up going to Orlando, Florida, and did what I believe was close to 3,000 miles there. We spent a lot of time in Texas, checking out, the northern part of Texas all the way down to we went to Waco, Texas, and then to Austin, Texas, and checked out the Fisker Ocean that was on display there. And a lot of mileage that we caught up a lot of mileage in Texas, but came back. I think it might have been 2,500 miles, but definitely over 5,000 miles just on that trip. Last year, we probably put on a good 11,000 miles, I would say, 12,000 miles. So haven't replaced the tires yet. It just depends on how much you drive. I don't know if we have any other questions. I didn't know that. Chad said, Safe Light Repair, Safe Light Replace. That's a Columbus-based company. Interesting. Didn't know that. Someone said, Tommaso, Columbus, Ohio or Columbus, Georgia? Oh, don't know. That's a good question. I'll have to look that one up. That's funny. So yeah, I don't see any other questions in there. Do you guys want to chat about anything else? Well, we have everybody. Did we hit 75 likes? We didn't. We got 72. So
that's it. I'm out of here.
So I know, right? It's like, how hard is it to? I guess most people like what we do here. That's a good thing, and we keep doing it. I'm gonna do it as long as I have fun doing it. That's kind of why we do this. We have, it is informed. Hopefully, the new format people like. If you like the new format, Ohio, excellent, Chad. Thanks. The new formats, talking about the news up front and then discussing the news after. A couple people ended up giving feedback saying, "Oh, it's too long to listen to the whole show. Can you just give us the news up front?" Other people said, "Could you end up putting the chapter headings on the video?" Now, regarding chapter headings, maybe Jim and Matt have a pro tip on that. I've selected the automatic chapter headings on YouTube to do that. They never work. They never show up. So I don't know how the automatic ones work. Maybe the options on live streams like we're doing now, but I never see chapters. So the best thing, if you're into the news, hopefully you like the new format where we read the latest updates up front and then we discuss the latest updates. So that's the new format. And then we take questions throughout, and Jim's been doing the EV, the notable EV news at the end. So that's the format. I personally like it, even though it takes me more time to prepare. It's, hopefully people like it and get some value out of this. And based on the number of people that watch it, it looks like some people get value out of it. So thank you again for the people who watch it. And then Marty has one more thing he wanted to chat about real quick. One more thing on Magna before we go.
So I read an article on Monday. It was kind of floating around that the 5 Series is going to be discontinued. I guess BMW is bringing it back in-house, and so Magna is no longer going to be producing it, which kind of coincides and overlaps nicely now with having available technicians and employees to go and launch the Fisker Ocean, presumably. So that might be a good timing. The article did say that they didn't have an exact date, which some people kind of got hung up on for the Fisker Ocean starting there and ramping. But that might just be really good timing for us because if we're going to hit that 42,000 number starting in May, we would have to do about 6,000 per month or average that to get that by year's end. So thank you, BMW, for leaving, I guess, is that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that is interesting news. I hadn't seen that one. And then a couple people, thank you, Marty. Marcio says he likes the new format. Juan likes the new format. Doug likes the new format. Thank you very much for giving your feedback. Greatly appreciate that. And yeah, that's it. I think we're going to call it a show. This is episode 22 of All Things Fisker. It will be posted in the next maybe 30 minutes or so to all of the streaming services for the podcast, and I'll publish it to the Fiskerati site as well, and I'll put the notification on to send it and alert people who have the Fiskerati app. So yeah, thank you everybody for watching. It's been a pleasure, as it always has. All right, take care.